either you are currently walking through something hard or heavy or not fun, or you have, or if you're younger, you will. There are going to be times in your life where you're going through something and it's not good. Like it's not a good thing. But remembering that God is good.
Yeah.
And just because this thing is not good does not mean God is not good.
And so there were so many times that I had to remind myself, even though this season of my life does not look how I had planned it or how I ever thought my life would have looked, I just had to like really lean into that, into my relationship with him, and just knowing that he is working. More people as believers need to realize that, because I've spent that quality, intimate time with him. I know who he is.
Right.
Now I'm able to live this out. But because you know who he is, his sovereignty, his goodness, you're able to truly rest in that.
Welcome to Let's Talk About That, the podcast where we dive into conversations about life and share stories of faith. We're thrilled to be on this journey with you. Whether you're a longtime listener, someone who calls the Orchard home, or you're just stopping by, Let's Talk About That is your space to explore, reflect, and connect. Join us as we navigate the intricacies of faith, spiritual formation, and daily life as we invite guests to share their stories with us. So grab a cup of coffee, find a comfortable space, and let's do this together. This is Let's Talk About That, where you can be encouraged and inspired by God's work in our lives.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About That. We are on episode 96. I think that's how Chip usually starts this thing out.
Sounds good. Sounds great to me.
I'm filling in for Chip today, and we have a cast of all ladies today. Woo-hoo. There are no men in the room at all.
Watch out, world.
Yeah. We already apologize. This is probably going to be one of the longest podcasts. But we're probably going to have to edit out a bunch of side conversations, and that's why it's going to be long.
It's okay.
So we will start off. I'm Mary Beth Everett, and I'll let the other two ladies introduce themselves.
Hey, everybody. I'm Erin Shrock.
And I am Astin Kahnk.
All right. Well, we are here today. We're going to be talking a little bit about our Unplanned sermon series and how that kind of intertwines into our lives as moms and wives and just women in general. But first, we are going to take it way back to a Momcast. If you were here for the Momcast days, we had a segment that we called Keep and Release, but we are going to change it to Peak and Pit because nobody understands what Keep and Release means.
Because we're not AJ Stevens and
talking about fishing.
Nope.
So most people know Peak and Pit, so we're going to take it back and we're going to talk about our peak and our pit from some recent things that have happened in our lives. So one of you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I would say my peak moment would be a few weeks ago. I was taking Jax and our newest little one, Lucy. We were in the car riding together, and little Missy was not happy, screaming. Just, it had been a day, and I was completely at my wit's end, but I needed to take my son Jax to this play day. And so we get in the car, and usually, you know, my little man in the back seat has me playing DJ, and usually we're listening to Danny Go or Zacchaeus, you know, was a wee little, whatever Bible song he wants that day. Usually I'm playing DJ. And I got in the car and I just like sighed, and he could just see on my face that I was like just at my wit's end. And his sweet little 3-year-old self was like, Mommy, can we, you know, play a song? And I was like, well, Mommy really could use just some worship music right now. And at the same time, we both said, how about Holy Spirit? And I was like, perfect. Aww. Let's put it on. And so I put it on, you know, Lucy's screaming her head off. And I'm like, all right, Lord, like, I'm just going to release this to you. Like, I'm just going to pray. And, you know, so I'm singing. And then right as the song, like, introduction is going, Jack says, now, Mommy, when we're singing this song, you better be worshiping. And I was like, okay, you know, I'll do what I can while I'm driving. So I'm driving and I'm singing and I'm like, you know, worshiping as well as you can while you're driving. And I look back in the back seat and I see my sweet little boy, palms out, eyes closed, like truly like worshiping in the song. And I just started crying. And it just reminded me that, you know, in motherhood, as you guys know, like we're going to mess up and we're going to mess up a lot. Mm-hmm. But I might miss the mark in other areas. But if I've hit that mark and just showed my little boy Jesus, like I've done it. And then, you know, obviously Lucy stopped crying. He was like, Mommy, she stopped.
Aww.
We did it. Our worshiping did it. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Sweet.
I would say that would be my peak. My pit would be currently we've moved. And so there's just a long list of just to-dos with the house. The laundry isn't caught up. The boxes aren't unpacked. And so I've been catching myself a lot just sitting in the overwhelmingness of just moving, having a little kid, having 2 little kids. And just I think kind of rushing through just the night routine so I can get to all that long list of things to do. And so I feel like the Lord has been reminding me that none of that has to be done right now. So I would say that's kind of where my pit is right now, is that constant just ebb and flow of like wanting to get my list done, but then remembering that like trying to take advantage of the time with my kids during the day. So it's kind of like where I'm sitting at right now.
Yeah. Cool.
I would say my recent peak is the husband and I a couple weeks ago took a trip to Banff National Park in Alberta, Canada, for an early 5th anniversary trip. So I'm a huge believer in you got to take care of your marriage first.
Absolutely.
You won't be very successful in parenting if you don't have, that healthy foundation. So that was an absolute peak. Literally in the middle of a bunch of peaks of the mountains. It was wonderful. Beautiful. God's creation is absolutely amazing. And I'm constantly in awe. And then I would say my recent pit, it was not my proudest mom moment. My oldest is currently, he's a junior in high school, but he's also taking some college courses. And he had a final due for a mini semester in math that he was taking. And Saturday morning, when I woke up and asked him what he had made on the final he took the night before, he made a C. And if you know my kid, that is not usual for him. And he was also rocking an A the entire semester. So in that moment, I did not have the best reaction. I'm pretty sure my face said it all. And so that was definitely a pit for me. I had to go back after I sued a little bit to my husband on the way to Lake City that day. I had to go back that evening and apologize for my reaction in that moment because I was not very happy with him. But so I would say definitely that's been my recent pit is we don't always react the best in scenarios. So I definitely regret that reaction in the moment, but we've made it right. So
there you go.
Good.
Yeah. All right. So my peak and pit kind of go hand in hand. So I'll start with my peak. And it's baseball season right now. My oldest just started playing baseball for the first time last year.
Okay.
And if you know anything about baseball and youth baseball, it's a big deal. And like once you start playing, you start when you're young and you don't stop and you keep going and you play a lot and you get really good. Well, that was not the case for our oldest. He, tried T-ball out when he was younger, decided he didn't want to do it. Well, last year he's 10 years old and he's like, Mom, Dad, I want to play baseball. And we're like, are you sure?
You positive? Will we jump into this?
Sure. And, he's like, yeah, I want to try baseball again. I think I'll like it this time. And so, being he was older, we were able to have a really honest conversation with him and just say, all those little boys that you played T-ball with, they didn't stop playing.
Yeah.
They continued to play and they're going to be really good and they're going to have, skills that you don't have yet. And like, if you're okay with that, we'll give it a shot. And he's like, yeah, I want to play. And so he played last year. He loved it. He had a really great experience and obviously was, behind the other boys in skill level, which was to be expected. And so we're on the next year of it now. He's playing again for a second year. And he's having a great season so far. And his batting has improved so much.
Awesome.
And I'm so proud of him. And he's been getting hits at all of his games and scoring runs. And he's set goals for himself. And so it's been really cool to see him improve and be so excited about improving.
Awesome.
So my pit, though, is goes hand in hand with baseball. Is if you're involved in Little League Baseball at all, you know how much time it takes up once the season is in. And I'm not a person who enjoys being busy all the time. And we are busy all the time right now.
Yeah.
We have, practices and games, and we usually have 2 games a week. And our youngest kids are in jiu-jitsu, which we have practices 3 days a week.
Wow.
That. And my oldest is in, the older age groups who play the later games. And so our games aren't starting until 7:00 at night.
Oh, my goodness.
And then we're not getting home. Monday night, we didn't even leave the field until 9:00 at night, and still had to get home, get showers, eat something. Luckily, we didn't have any homework that night, but eat something, get in the bed. And there are some nights where we go straight from, I leave work, I get the twins, we go to jiu-jitsu practice, we leave jiu-jitsu practice, we go straight to the baseball fields, and we're not home until, 9:00 or after. So that's the season that we're in right now.
Busy.
It's busy. I do not love it. I love watching my kids have fun and do things that they like doing. But the facilitating of that is not fun sometimes.
It's rough when you're a homebody.
It is. I'm a big homebody. I'm a big homebody who needs my
recharge time.
Time.
Yep.
I need recharge time, and I'm not getting a lot of recharge time right now.
So your battery's slowly dwindling down.
My battery is dwindling, and I notice it most in number one, the state of my home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is hard because that also affects the state of my emotions.
Yes.
And my mental state.
Yep.
And also it just adds to the constant, all the tabs open in my brain at one time. And so I feel like we were talking about, doing this podcast right before we started this podcast. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what's been going on. I don't really know what's been going on in my life recently.
It's too bad. We don't have cell phones where you can hit low power mode.
Oh, for real.
We can enter into low power mode and just go from there.
Yes. But, and my husband's on night shift schedule right now. And so that adds in a whole, whole aspect into that too.
Yeah.
But so my peak and my pit both have to do with youth sports right now.
Always a good time.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into our next kind of talking point. Let's talk a little bit about our sermon series that we're going through right now. It's called Unplanned, and it's following the life of Joseph in the Old Testament, and just kind of all the twists and turns and the unplanned moments that he had to endure throughout his life. So has there been anything specific from the sermon series as a whole or from this past week that has either resonated with you or just stuck out to you in some way?
I would say, I've obviously read this story before, but I think, since the Bible is living and you can, you get something different out of it every time that you read it. I would say for me, just seeing how intentional and how detail-oriented God is, even in just the fact that Potiphar was the one that bought him. And then it's if you know the story, kind of what's coming. But the fact that there was it could have been anyone else, but it was specifically Potiphar that bought him out of slavery. So I think that is what resonated with me, and how, in this crazy wild ride called life, God is still a very detail-oriented God. Even if we don't see it now, it's all of those details are working towards glory for God in it. So I think that's kind of what has stuck out with me, the most in this series.
Yeah, everything has a purpose.
Yes.
Even if it seems like it's not an important detail.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a background thing that has happened in your life. It could very well be extremely important to how your life plays out and what God has for you.
And I think also just keeping that in mind when you're in that, of just okay, I don't understand it, but God is a detail-oriented God. Just having that faith and trust in that He's got it.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I'm same. I've heard the story of Joseph many times. But I think actually what a lot of people don't know is so our student ministry has been continuing the series in student ministry on Wednesday nights. So essentially each Wednesday night they're talking about what we just talked about Sunday. So I've gotten to hear actually double, messages.
Very cool.
And so I think for me, I've heard story Joseph many times. It's a great story, and I think for me, though, it's been fun to walk through that with students.
Yeah.
And I have a group of 11th and 12th grade girls. And so to be able to like walk with them and remind them, you know, that like he is working, you know, everything together for your good. And like so much of what they deal with as teenagers, you know, they can kind of feel sometimes in a prison. Like last night's message to student men in particular was about like how, you know, we've all been in a prison or of some sort, some, you know, whether it be something going on in a relationship or depression or just all any kind of thing, you know. And so for me, it's just been really fun and well, I guess not fun, but it's nice to walk through it with the students and especially my girls and remind them, you know, that like God is there even when he feels silent, you know, that he's there, and just to remind them, you know, like I know as teenage girls, there's something, you know, for each and every one of them's got something, even if whether they say it or not, but just to remind them, you know, that one, like God is constantly there. He is working out all the details, even when you can't see it. Yeah. When you know, you can't feel it, you can't see it. But he is working it out. And just to also remind them that like none of the prisons that they might be in change their salvation. Like, you know, like that, so good. Just that reminder, that was specifically last night, I really hit on that with them, is like, if they heard nothing else from me ever, I want them to hear that like their salvation cannot be taken from them, you know, and like, no matter like what you do, right. God's still there. He still loves you. Yeah. Might be dealing with some consequences. Yeah. You know,
no matter what pit you might be in.
Exactly. Yeah. He's still there with you in that prison. And so, for me, that's been cool to like have a double dose on Wednesdays and be able to walk with teenage girls who I know are, you know, all dealing with something. So it's been really cool for me.
Yeah. I think it's been a really good series for literally anybody, because either you are currently walking through something hard or heavy or not fun, or you have, or if you're younger, you will. Yeah. And so I think just watching it all play out through Joseph's life and just thinking about how, you know, there are going to be times in your life where you're going through something and it's not good. Like it's not a good thing. But remembering that God is good. Yeah. And just because this thing is not good does not mean God is not good. And does not mean God does not love me, and does not mean God is not with me. He was with Joseph, you know, the whole time, and using all these things to get him exactly where he wanted him and needed him to be. Yeah. So I think it's just been a really good series for everybody, no matter who you are or what you're going through in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, kind of put your mom hat on or your wife hat, whichever one.
All the or both
hats or both. So share how you handle the unplanned as a mom. Maybe not, you know, it doesn't have to be as like devastating as your, you know, Joseph's life where his siblings sold him and you know, he ended up in jail and, you know, all that. But we have things come up probably every day that are unplanned. As a mom, as a wife, share how you handle that.
Yeah, this is because I feel like I can be very type A when it comes to like my kids.
I want to be very clear on this. I don't always handle this well.
Oh, girl, me either. No.
Handle it.
Refer back to the pit for me.
Yeah, I don't always handle this well. I would say this is an area that I could grow in. I feel like I handle unplanned things a lot better if it's external, like if it's coming from somebody else or somewhere else. Work unplanned things, no problem. I ain't worried about it. It'll be fine. Home unplanned things, I think because I just have this unspoken expectation of just like what it should be, because this is like my space. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah.
I'm learning that I need to lead with grace more often than I do. And I feel like I am growing in that. I feel like I am getting better at that. Same. And I will say, you know, when I think about when I think about motherhood, I've only been on the motherhood journey for 11 years now. So
longer than me. I've been in it for 3.
I've got a long way to go, but I have pretty early on in motherhood, I realized other than marriage, but also I feel like motherhood, parenting in general, in a big way, there is nothing in my life that I feel like is more sanctifying
absolutely
than mothering.
Yeah.
I realized real quick, it was like a big old mirror in my face. I realized real quick just how selfish I was when I became a mother. And so I feel like I struggle sometimes to handle the unplanned because like I've planned it in my head.
Right.
And it's gonna go like this, and this, and this. And if it doesn't, it's usually not because of me. It's usually because of something else, whatever. Somebody, I honestly, the thing that pops into my head, this is not recent at all, but I remember, was it last year or the year before, Christmas fell on a Sunday?
It was recently. I don't know when.
Recently.
Yeah. Within the last couple of years.
Yeah. Christmas Day was on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And so we were having service, but we were not doing, like, it was a very scaled back. There was no kids ministry. So like I wasn't on duty. I was just like attending church on Christmas Day. So, and I had like built it up in my head because this is not going to happen again until, I don't know, however many years.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, at least probably, I would say at least 10 years. I don't know how often it happens, but
yeah.
And we were all getting ready. I think we even only had one service that day. Yep. We were all getting ready. Everybody was dressed, and it's Christmas. Everybody's dressed all, festive and cute. And, I'm not wearing an OCC Kids shirt. I'm wearing like
normal clothes.
And we get in the car, and our oldest was getting over a cough, and he got into a coughing fit, and he threw up in the car.
Oh, buddy.
And I was like, and I threw my sucker in the dirt. Like I was not in front of him.
Yeah.
Not in front of him. But I definitely pouted about it and like I was like, it's Christmas Day, and we're going to church on Christmas Day.
How special is this?
How special is this? And I'm, we're just like, I have zero responsibilities today. We're just going to church as a family, and this is not going to happen again. And what made me sad is I was like, Emery is probably going to be like grown the next time that this comes around when, and it's like, I don't know. It was like, I had built it up to be a big deal in my head.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't a big deal. Right. We go to church every Sunday as a family. And, the only difference is that this is Christmas Day, and we're all in like pretty close. Yeah. But I don't know. I had just built it up in my head, and it just came crashing down from an unplanned moment. And I did not handle that well. I was very disappointed and kind of pouty for a while. Yeah. Which was not good because it was Christmas Day.
Right. Yeah. Right. Oh my gosh. So I can literally piggyback right off that story. So I would say for me, like I said, like I am type A. I like to plan everything out, like to have everything, execute. And I have realized it was a lot easier to be a type A-ish mom when I had one kid, when I had one factor. Oh, yeah. Right. So much easier. And so I think for me, God has shown me in this season that when you add another into the mix, you really do have to throw the plans out the window. Like I think I still struggle with that sometimes because I do like, I used to be able to pick out my son's clothes, and now he's 3 and he has an opinion. I'm like, okay, well, that goes, there goes that cute outfit I just spent money on. We ain't going to wear that. But I would say that's a specific moment that comes in my mind was when I was going to get newborn pictures at the beach, and I was so excited. I had kind of a rough spell after we had our daughter Lucy, and so I was finally feeling better. I was like, we get to get pictures at the beach. This is amazing. I intentionally didn't put my children in their outfits until we got to the beach because I didn't want what happened to Emery to happen to my kids. And so, we get down to the beach. Well, actually, we're not even at the beach yet. We're pulling into Pensacola. And my, at the time, 2-3-week-old was like losing her mind, like screaming her head off. And so we pull over, I get Jack's dressed, then we have to drive into this like this like park or whatever. It's like on the beach. And so we're driving in there and Lucy's like losing her mind. So I, give her a bottle. We're driving on and I'm just praying, I'm like, Lord, like, I just really want some nice pictures. Yeah. Like, please, just work your magic.
Yeah, let everybody be happy
let
for
a
like
miracle work out.
Yeah.
And so again, in my mind, I'm like, oh, we're gonna have these beautiful pictures. Everything's gonna be picturesque. Like my 3.5-year-old's gonna be perfect. I have the snacks for him to bribe him. I've got an extra outfit. Like I had planned everything. So we get to the beach, and my son's obsessed with seagulls. And it's like sunset pictures. So he literally could have cared less with the pictures and ran towards the seagulls. So he's running towards the seagulls. I can't get him to come over to take pictures with us. My, 3-week-old at the time is screaming her head off. And we have this photographer here to take pictures. And this photographer is a friend of mine, and she's absolutely amazing and loves Jesus. And she was like, I'm just going to snap pictures. Just be yourself. And so I had to, in that moment, I wanted to get over here right now. Yes. But I was like, Lord, okay, this is out of my control. All things are in control. Just give me grace and peace. And so the photographer was like, just breathe. Just let it happen. And so, I look back at our pictures and, Jax is cross-eyed in a few, and he's pointing at the birds. But that's just my life right now. Yeah. It's just there's just so much more unplanned than planned. And I would say just rolling with the punches. And my husband is so good at reminding me in these of like, it's out of our control, but God is in control. Just let it be. Because I could get like, I was getting really frustrated during these pictures. I'm like, my baby's going to scream the whole time. And then Brandon reminded me, Jax did the same thing in his newborn pictures. And we loved every single one. Because the way she took the picture, you couldn't tell that he was screaming his head off.
Right.
And so it was one of those reminders of like, okay, breathe.
Right. It'll be fine.
Close my eyes and just like, Lord, you're in it. Yeah. And I think just like taking a step back and pausing has helped me with those unplanned of just like, Lord, you're in it. I'm going to breathe. There's only so much I can do as a human. Right. You can do the rest. And so for me, we made it through the session and we had beautiful pictures, but I think that was just a very quick reminder of just like, you're going to have unplanned moments and I can plan as best as I can for them. I can have
be as prepared
the extra set of extra outfit. Like, even my car right now, I have like diapers and wipes in case I forget the diaper. I have like it planned, but then it's going to go unplanned and that's okay. Yeah. Just to literally just roll with it is why I'm learning to be more flexible in the season.
Yeah.
I would love to tell you guys that it gets easier.
It doesn't know.
Teenage years it's just not. It's not easier. I think each stage, obviously, you guys know, each stage of parenting has wonderful moments that you are just like, man, like, thank you, God, for giving me this kid. You just love these kids so much. But then, I definitely think so I'm definitely further along down the road. I'm 16 years in. And then I also have my bonus son who is 11. And, that, has its challenges too, being a stepmom, it's a little different. And so over the last 5 years, as my husband and I have blended our two families, it's definitely been a process where grace is necessary. I am a fellow type A. And especially for my oldest, like I have all these things in my head that this kid's going to accomplish. Right. And then they really start getting into like, you think he's got an opinion at 3 about what he wears. Wait till he's a teenager. And so you have all these plans because you see your kid and you know how much potential they have. And like, you're just like, oh my gosh, and then they do something and you're just like, what in the world? Like, where did that come from?
Why would you do that?
Like, why would you do that? Like, you are on track. Okay. And then, and then something unplanned comes up and right now we're at this time of life, especially with the oldest, that like, I think I've said on this podcast before, you're still a parent, like you still parent them, but you're also, we've moved into more of an advice stage of we've really hit all the years already that we had to like really implement things and like really parent him. And now he's becoming very much his own, like who he is, and so it's cool. So cool to watch your kid become, I mean, he'll be, he's just like 6 months shy, so he's 17. And I'm just like, holy cow, I'm going to have an adult child, technically when he's 18, he's, and in just a year and a half. And so, but so many unplanned things happen with your teenagers. And I think the biggest thing is I've had to really, truly learn to approach it with grace. And my husband, Jesse, is been such a massive help because I did parent. I was a single mom for 8 years. And so Jesse has been wonderful since we have gotten together about really like helping me raise a teenage boy,
awesome.
I don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
So he has been an absolute godsend in this time of life because he came into Aiden's life right before he turned 11. And he's been a massive help for my very type A, everything needs to go a certain way to like help me parent.
That's awesome.
A 16-year-old. But I think just grace, especially as they get older and they really start becoming their own person, that having grace with them will get you so much further than like having that thumb down on them.
That's so good.
And I just think like knowing how to apologize to your kid, because I mean, like I just said earlier, I apologized to my kid for the way I reacted, that goes a massively far way with a teenager. So I just think grace is how I try to handle the unplanned. I am not always successful in that, but massive amounts of grace and prayer for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I would add to that too, that our oldest is kind of helping me with my over planning tendencies, because he is in, I guess you would call him a tween. So he's exiting the little boy years, for sure. But not quite into the teen years yet. And so he has, he's always been a questioner, like he needs to know why. Yeah. Type thing, which I have another one of those also. But I'll be like, just in a tizzy about something that he needs to do, and he's got to do it this way, or it's got to be like something he needs to wear and it needs to be worn this way or whatever. And he legit will ask me like, why does it matter? And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, it just does.
Yeah, because I said so.
Depends on how he catches me. Yeah. But sometimes I'm like, it really does make me stop. And he doesn't say it, and that maybe
not disrespectful.
It was quite disrespectful.
Yeah, but why, Mom?
But like, and he's got a little toot on him, but it's not coming from a disrespectful place. He's just like, why does this matter? Yeah. Because to him, he's like, this is dumb. This does not matter. Why does it have to be done like this?
Right.
And I'm like, because my brain says it has to be done like
this. Because it makes sense to me.
Yes. So I think too, like allowing our kids to
teach us.
Absolutely. And being teachable. Like, I feel like in any phase of life and in any aspect of life, if you're not teachable, it's not good. So allowing our kids access to do that and kind of that piggybacks a safe space that piggybacks off of apologizing.
Yeah,
being sure you're apologizing.
Even for my 3-year-old, like that's so big, because if we can't apologize to them, how are they going to go and apologize to a classmate or to a teacher? Right. So it's like to literally model that at home. Is huge. And the fact that, if you can start it not sooner rather than later, you can start it whenever, but like the younger you implement that, I think it's going to help, once they get to 16, 17, 18, where it's like they're an adult now and mom isn't on them, but it's like, oh man, you know what? I really messed up.
Yeah. I need to go apologize.
Yeah. You own it. You apologize.
Exactly. Yeah. Have you mastered the apologizing without following it up with a but?
I mean, I'm only 3 years in.
I'm 11 years in, and I have not. I've a couple of times caught myself still really wanting to say like, I'm really sorry I reacted this way. But
but in my mind, I was valid for that reason.
Valid. I'm still kind of valid. I shouldn't have reacted that way. That was not right. Yeah. My reaction was not right, but
the source.
There's the but.
The source. Yeah.
There's the but. I've started following it up with, do you understand why?
Yes. That's good.
I may have reacted that way. Or do you understand why I'm upset about this?
Yeah. Or I'll even say like, why is mommy upset?
Yeah.
And like putting it back at, he's 3. Sometimes I'll be like, why did mommy send you to your room? And he'll go, because. And I'm like, no, why? And now he's fine, like, because I X, Y, and Z. I'm like, exactly. Like, that hurt mommy's feelings when you did that. And, you know, we always say too, it's like, unfortunately, every action has either positive or negative reaction. And so when I give you expectations, and we're really working hard in our house on like first time obedience, like getting our shoes on. Because, you know, I truly believe, like, you know, first time obedience is, you know, obedience. It's like, and I, not to over spiritualize it, but it's like the same thing with God. Like, God asks us to do it, to be obedient in that. So not to, it's what I'm, you know, putting on, but it's like, it is. It's like if an adult asks you to do something, you do it. You can ask, say, hey, why? You know, like, I think asking that question is fine, but it's like, all right, I need you to go get your shoes on and grab your backpack. Right. Saying it one time. Also for me, it's like, getting on his level, making sure he's looking at me like, hey, this is what I need to do right now. And then if he doesn't, then it's like, okay, this is why we're going to sit, because we didn't do X, Y, and Z. And then obviously I can't say my reactions are fantastic all the time. But then it's like, because mommy asked you, know, one time, and I need you to be a first time listener. Or like with us right now is the constant getting up. It's time to go to bed. Yeah. And it's like, I need water. I need socks. I need my shoes.
Tell me a story.
I need a Band-Aid. Like last night I was coming out of the bathroom and I hear the door close, but I see Lucy's like room opened. And I was like, hey buddy. And he's like peeking out. Like it's like 9 o'clock at night. He's like peeking out. He's like, what's up, mommy? And I was like, were you in Lucy's room? Yeah. And he was like, no. And I was like, buddy, I need you to be honest with me. Like, were you in Lucy's room? And he was like, I think you left the door open. And I was like, baby, mommy was not. Mommy was literally changing into her PJs. And he's like, okay, fine. He was like, I was petting Lucy Goose. He calls her Lucy Goose. He's like, I was petting Lucy Goose. I just love her just so much. And in that moment, I'm like, I can't even be mad at you.
I know.
Because it's so sweet. But I'm trying to be like, okay, mommy said we can't get out. Like, you need to get back in bed. Like, there will be consequences if you get out of bed again. So it's like giving that grace of just like, my plan was like, I was going to come home, children in bed, X, Y, and Z. And then I have a toddler that gets up 4 times. And I'm like, I can choose to. There was one, I'm sorry, I'm totally rambling, but I think of all these funny stories. Jax used to have a season where he would, want to put shoes on in bed, like literally would put legit tennis shoes on when he went to bed. And there was one time he had been up like 3 or 4 times and it was, you know, 9:15 and he walks out and he's literally like he has socks on and he's in his sandals and he walks out and he was like, hey mommy. And I like look and I just start laughing. I'm like, I love you so much, big goofball, but get in bed now. And so I just think of just like constant, like grace, like you said, that grace and just being like, okay, Lord. Yeah. How can I show him grace? When I'm frustrated, I've told you like 10,000 times to get to bed, but showing him Jesus, showing him the grace.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. God also made him cute for a reason.
Oh, so stinking cute. Especially gives that little smirk. I'm like, oh boy, you're so cute. Yeah. I can't tell you no sometimes. But then there are times I can tell you no.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Oh, yes, definitely. All right. So let's keep this going and continue talking about our Unplanned sermon series. So in this series, we're talking about Joseph and his life and all the twists and turns and his peaks and pits and all those things. So I want you to think about your life and share a story of a difficult time in your own life that drew you closer to Jesus.
That's good.
Yeah. So I'll start. So back when my son was 2.5, his father and I divorced. Well, I guess he was technically 3 when we divorced, but we divorced. And definitely, probably, if you ever asked me the most unplanned thing in my life, it was that moment. Definitely not what my very type A personality had planned for my life. You know, got married at 22, had my son at 24. Everything was going to be great. Going to have another kid along the way. It was supposed to be, you know, perfect, right? House, white picket fence, all the things, 2 kids, a dog, maybe, you know, everything would have been great. But instead I found myself at 27 getting divorced. And, that definitely was a massive, low part, you know, in my life. And when I look back now, you know, 13 years later, and I look at that, especially that immediate time when I was just, you know, devastated, I was heartbroken and all at the same time, I still had to be mom. I still had to show up, you know? And so, I mean, literally I like, here on earth, my parents were the absolute godsend. My whole family, they were, I'm so grateful for the massive support system that I have. But like really so much I had to rely on Jesus because I did not know what in the world was happening. You know, my world literally had gotten swept out from under my feet. And so I just had to like really rely on Jesus for just that feeling, that emptiness that I was feeling. I mean, I will be 100% honest and say there were times that I was a little upset, you know, with God, because I'm like, God, I tried to be a good wife, tried to be a great mom, and like all this still happened, you know, why? So I definitely am not going to say, I didn't have those moments, but so much of the next 8 years of being a single mom and learning how to navigate being on my own again after having been, you know, with my ex for so many years. And so, navigating the dating world in your late 20s, that's
bless your soul.
a blast.
That does
with a
not
kid.
sound fun.
It was absolute misery. There might be a reason I was single for so long. But I really did have to lean into, because there was for sure moments over those 8 years that, I'm all my best friends were still very happily married and I'm like, okay, Lord, I feel like I'm ready. Like, I feel like I was ready. I got to a point I was ready to start dating, and all these things. And like, nothing was really happening. And, I went out with some great guys, nothing wrong with them. They were great guys. They just weren't my guy. And so there was definitely some periods of loneliness that like, I really would have to lean into like, but I'm not alone.
Yeah. It's so good.
I'm not alone. Like, he's here. He still loves me. He sees what I'm going through. And I truly had to lean into what one of the things of this sermon series is God works things together for the good of those that are called to his purpose, and I know that. And so there were so many times that I had to remind myself that like, even though this season of my life does not look how I had planned it or like how I ever thought my life would have looked, like I just had to like really lean into that, into my relationship with him, and just into the like just knowing that he is working. Yeah. Like whether I was seeing it or feeling it in the moment, and in the day-to-day trudges of, I have a toddler and then, a 6-year-old and then, and just as he grew and just, getting through that and just, I don't know, I really had to lean in to just knowing. Knowing that he was there, knowing that, he did see me struggling, but yet knowing and like always constantly reminding myself, like, it's going to be okay. He is working things out. And honestly, when I look back, we were happy. We were so happy. Yeah. Like, and so then when Jesse did come into my life, I mean, it was just like, God was just like, see, girl, I got you. Yeah.
And like I've had, not to interject, but I've had conversations with you, and you attribute the closeness of yours and Aiden's relationship to all those years that it was just the two of you. Yeah.
He's 100% a mom's boy. Like, and I love it. I mean, don't get me wrong, great relationship with his dad and stepmom, but like, he's 100%. Yeah. Like I'm that person that like, when he's really struggling with something or he's got some questions, like he's going to come, to me. And I do attribute that to like, it was the two of us, across the world for a really formative years for him as well. And so it was a blessing. When I look back, I'm like, yes, there was definitely some low periods in that 8 years, especially at the beginning, and trying to adjust to life, no longer being married and not having that help in the home anymore and stuff like that. But when I look back, I see God's blessings all throughout that time. I see that he provided for us in ways, that like, he's just, I don't know. He had me set up. God knew nothing took God by surprise. And literally I was living, in a paid for mobile home on my parents' property. So like becoming a single parent, I didn't have housing. Like, literally like even in material things, he took care of us so much during that time. And then, I mean, just even the way I met my husband literally has God's hand all over it. And so I think just that period of my life was just, I just really had to like hold close that he was with me. He was working things out. I just had to trust that, like, I wasn't always seeing it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't always feel it, but yet I knew deep down, like, God's working it out. He's working it out. And he did. And he showed up in a massive way, you know, 5 years ago when I met my husband.
Yeah.
And so, and now I just continue that on to look and see, like, how in that period of time, and it's transitioned into this new, you know, these last 5 years with my husband, and just how even just the relationship between my husband and Aiden, and just like all the things. And then I have my second little baby, you know, I just didn't birth him. And that's, there are perks to that. Not having to birth those babies. And so, you know, and so now I look at my life, and I do have my happy marriage with my 2 kids, and you know, we have our beautiful home, and like I'm just like, man, even when you don't feel it, he's working it out.
Yeah.
You know? So it's, I don't know, definitely a horrible time in my life, but yeah, it did draw me closer, and just feeling that closeness up from him, from God, knowing that God was there the whole time.
Yeah.
That's good. I would say mine's a little bit similar to yours. But mine would be, in my 20s. I mean, I was pretty much single, didn't date a lot in high school. Kind of just was focused on friends. All of a sudden I was like, oh, dating will come in college. It'll come, you know, get to your 20s, and you have some awesome friends that are getting married, and, you know, you start getting asked to be bridesmaid after bridesmaid after bridesmaid. And it's like, as that old saying goes, I literally felt like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And so then my sister got married, and, you know, I was like, all right, Lord, like, hello, it's me, Astin. Are you there? Hello. You're and you haven't forgotten me. I'm here, you know, still single. And so I think for me, that's where I had to grow closer to Jesus. I think, like, there was a short season, remember, I like, not to say I was like crazy actively dating, but I was always like, could he be the one? You know, the small group, is he the one? Is he there? You know, where am I going to meet him? And so I think God, like, remember a season to where God challenged me, like, change my mentality on that. And I just spent, like, instead of 6 months, like, looking for where my future husband can be, I took those 6 months to, like, focus on, like, me and Jesus, like, intentionally focusing on that, to where I was, like, reading my Bible, praying. Like, I mean, I look back now and it just brings a smile to my face, but even reading scripture about how a husband treats a wife, and how children, and circling it. It was like, gosh, Eddie did a sermon series about, like, circling. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like circling scripture, and, like, you know, like, not claiming it, but like praying that over your future self. Yes. And so that was probably honestly around the same time I was, you know, kind of struggling with this. And so I would start circling the scripture and writing the date next to it, and just praying that scripture over my future husband. And so I think for me, it was one of those, I remember I had just moved to Omaha thinking, okay, this is it. You know, I'm 26 years old. I'm going to move to a new city. I'm going to meet all these people. I have this beautiful apartment, and I was having a hard time. I mean, I had friends at work, but, like, you know, in the boyfriend apartment, it was non-existent. And so I remember sitting in my, like, apartment, just, like, praying, like, God, like, honestly, I wrote a letter to my future husband that night, and was like, to my future husband, you know, just thank you for pointing me to Jesus. Thank you that God, like, just all these things that I was believing over myself. I actually wasn't going to say that, but thank you, Lord, for bringing that to mind. So yeah, I wrote this letter and just prayed over, like, God, you know, like, let your will be done. But I didn't even meet my husband until I was 29. So you think 4 years later, you know, I just so happened to keep this letter, and just believing, like, Jesus, like, I know you have great plans. Like, I have this calling to be a mom. I have this calling to be a wife. Like, but I had to get to a point of, like, Lord, if that isn't your will for my life,
then I'm okay with it.
Then I'm okay. That was a hard pill to swallow.
That's hard.
Yes.
To swallow.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, like you said, it's me and Jesus. And so I have a lot of time with just me and Jesus in my beautiful apartment with like no one hanging out with me. And I was like, all right, it's just you, Jesus. It will always be just you, Jesus.
Yeah.
And so because of that time that I spent and I wasn't perfect at it. There were days and weeks where I wouldn't have a quiet time, but then I would feel it in my soul. I'm like, okay, I need to like get back to my source of life. And so, you know, get back in. But I look back now and I'm like, because of the time I invested in my relationship with Jesus, it made me the woman that Brandon needed.
Yeah.
And so it was like, now I'm able to look back. I'm like, wow, in those seasons, I was able to meet some of my best friends. I was able to serve a church. I was able to do all of these things because my focus wasn't on others. It was literally on, okay, Jesus, what do you want me to do? So therefore, when I met my husband, and I remember after we were engaged, I found that letter. I just so happened to find it. And I was reading, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally Brandon to a T. And it was just such a cool moment of like, okay, God, like you're in the details. Like literally as I'm like pouring my heart out, just like sobbing with this letter.
Yeah.
It's literally years. Yes,
before.
years. Yeah. And then voila, here's my husband. And so I think for me, it's like, yeah, in that season, I could have very well just gone on a rampage and just shut the door on Jesus and gone and, done whatever I wanted to do. But I knew that like God has a purpose. God has a plan. He's in the details. And I have to just have the faith and trust that. So that's like, I mean, there's so many other in my life that I can think, but I was like, that would be like, I'd say like the first one when I really experienced, young 20s, like how can you keep your eyes on Jesus in a difficult, unplanned season? Because I was like, girl, I'm gonna be married by I'm 25. I had my 30 before 30 list. And I was like, I'm gonna have 2 kids. Yeah. I'm married. I'm gonna do all these things. And it was like, I've checked one. Yeah. One on my 30 before 30. Let's make it 35 before 30.
Yeah. So listen, I just got to interject here. I absolutely love that you had a letter because about a year after I got divorced and I started feeling like I was definitely a lot of healing had gone on that year and everything from my divorce. I wrote a list, and it's going to sound bad when I first say it, but it was a non-negotiables list.
Yes.
But absolutely. It wasn't non-negotiables in anything. Okay. Not like he's got to be 6 foot. Because bless, my husband is not 6 foot. Okay. Yeah. So but it was a non-negotiable list.
I'm not willing to give on this.
Give on these things of like, he's got to be a Christian. He's got to have a healthy relationship with his family, like all these things. And I think it was the original. Okay. So like, I had an original list and it had probably like 13 non-negotiables. And honest moment here, transparent. I did at the bottom put a would be nice if list. And it did include 6 foot, tall dog, tall dog, handsome.
You scratch that out. It's okay.
But listen, so a couple years later, something prompted me, and I put it in at Proverbs 31 in my Bible, and I prayed over it, put it in there, and kind of forgot about it. Honestly. Yeah. And then several years later, about a year before I met my husband. So it was definitely several years later, about a year before I met my husband. Now I thought about that list and I went to look for it and could not find it. Y'all, I had never touched this list again. Could not find this list. So I decided to rewrite it. But this time I left out the would be nice ifs because I'm like, why am I trying to put God in a box? Right. Yeah. So I like really looked at all my non-negotiables, and that list had about like 9, I think it was like 9 or 10. So it went from like 12 or 13 to like 9 or 10. And so like a year later I met my husband and we started like dating long distance because he was out in San Diego at the time. And when I tell you, I pulled that out when we started kind of getting serious, like I was like, okay, this might be the guy.
I need to start thinking about it.
I need to start thinking about it.
I didn't take that list out again.
That list popped into my head. So I went to my Bible, I pulled it out, and I was looking, and he checked every single non-negotiable on that list. Plus, he had some of the former would be nice ifs.
Not
the 6 foot thing, bless him.
Yeah.
But the dark features, like all these things, even from my would be nice, like he had some of those features, even. So it was just like, but when you were talking about the letter, I'm like, girl, yes,
dude, that was a total like Holy Spirit, just like, I'm just gonna pour my heart out. Whatever I write. And it was literally like, dear my future husband. I think the first thing was like, you don't know me, but I've been praying for you for years. It was literally like verbatim, just like writing it out. I literally like, it was a pink notebook with like a blue marker, red, like I see it. I still have it. Yeah. And I really should like do something with it. And then Brandon's heard it, but I need to like do something with it. Yeah. Cause it was, and I remember just like praying like, God, like you see my heart. Like at the time I was like, I want this more than anything. But then he humbled me and was like, more than me. And I was like, no. Like, but I had to swallow that pill. Yeah, like,
for sure.
Okay, I have this beautiful letter. I would love for, me to have a husband, but your will, not mine. And so it's one of those of like, okay, it checked me real because I was like, okay, 100%. Like, am I going to regret saying this? I'm like, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I had the same like realization at some point that like I had to start like realizing like, what if that's not God's will for my life to get remarried one day? Yeah. And even though like, I'm like, God, you know me, like, you know how much I love being a wife. Like, I love being a wife. I love being a mom. Like I feel like that's my main calling on this earth, you know, is to be these things. But at the same, I like, after a couple of years, I really had to like start checking myself. Because I'm like, well, God, you know, God keeps his promises. Well, guess what? God didn't promise me a husband, you know? And so like, I had to really like start facing that possibility. That might not be God's will for my life. And am I going to be okay with that? You know, and it is a horribly hard thing to like work through.
So
when
hard.
it's so ingrained in you and that's what your heart desires so much. But you know, God is good and he works it out. So
that's legit.
I cannot relate to that. So mine is not, I've never been through like a season of singleness, other than when it was appropriate for me to be in a season of singleness.
When you were 13.
Right. So my husband and I dated for a long time. We, started dating in high school. And by the time we got married, we had been together, I think, for 7 years.
Wow.
So, you know, I've never had to live through that season of singleness. So I would say, you know, the time in my life that drew me closer to Jesus was honestly the first few years of motherhood. For those of you who don't know, my husband is in law enforcement and he works shift work. And so there is a lot of my time in my life, even still to this day, where he's not around because he's at work. And sometimes that's day shift and sometimes that's night shift and it swaps all around and it's all kind of crazy days that still people in our family cannot remember, which I don't blame them because it's just weird hours and a weird shift. And so when I was in those first few years of motherhood, when we just had Emery, I really took advantage of the time that it was just me. And I really leaned in. And I can say that was probably the first time in my life. And one of the times in my life where I just was like hungrily seeking Jesus. And I invested time, intentionality, with my extra time, which is not really extra time, you know? And so I planned my day around it. I was like, okay, it's just us home today. And while Emery, you know, he was on still the 2 naps, you know, a day schedule.
So good.
I miss those days. My gosh.
I mean, I'm with my little,
when you have to drop that one of those naps, man. Anyways, I digress. But I was just very intentional with my time. And I think it's because I knew I needed to. I knew that was the first time in my life, because, you know, I said before, motherhood, parenting in general, marriage too, but parenting, I feel like is just one of the most sanctifying things for somebody to go through. And I think it was like a big mirror for me. And it was the first time that I realized that Mary Beth is not enough. Like, I am not enough. I need Jesus and I need to grow in my faith and I need to grow closer to Jesus and I need to look more like him. And I can't look more like him if I don't know him. And so that period of time of just those first few years, and looking back, it's like such a sweet time. You know, we're a family of 5 now. We're just like, it's crazy. Like,
just crazy, period.
There's not a lot of like just quiet moments. And there hasn't been for a long time. And, but looking back of just like being really intentional, with the extra time that did not feel like extra time at the time.
Right.
Looking back, I'm like, Mary Beth,
you had all the time.
You had so much time. You had so much time. But it's just a really good reminder for me, too, in this season of, like I said, my pit is just the busyness that we are in this season is, even though it feels busy, because Mary Beth of 2000, when was that? 2014, 2015, it felt busy to me then, too. but I was very intentional, and it grew my faith in so many ways that carried on into my life for different things that pop up, you know, like a period of time that I wouldn't say drew me closer to Jesus, like the time I just shared. But having that closeness with Jesus in a period of time several years ago, my husband was going through some health things that we just had, at the time, we had no clue what the cause was. And it was really scary. And, you know, a man I had known for, you know, close to 20 years at this point, I'd never seen him that sick. I'd never seen him in that much pain. And that's just really hard. And we were in and out of the ER. We were in and out of the hospital for different hospital stays and having different tests done. And the same time having 3 young kids at home. And, you know, so thankful to have so much family around who could just, you know,
drop of a hat,
be there for the kids so that I could be there with him. But in that same season, my grandmother died. Wow. And that was a really hard time too. And I just spent, you know, I was spending a lot of time in the hospital and a lot of time kind of by myself. I wasn't by myself. Chad was there, but you know, and so I think what really helped me through a lot of that to not feel, now don't get me wrong, there were moments I felt extremely overwhelmed, extremely scared, extremely pulled, because when my grandmother died, we knew it was coming, but I couldn't be there because I needed to be with my husband. I needed to be, you know, with my kids. But because I had grown close to Jesus, I felt a safety in him that I don't think I would have felt had I... Am I making sense?
No. Literally, I think like
I can't form
the peace
the
that
words.
Surpasses all understanding.
Yes. It felt hard and it felt scary and it felt overwhelming, but I knew I was held.
Absolutely.
I knew that Chad was held. I knew that my family was held. I knew that it was okay, even though it didn't feel okay.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say, like I said, I wouldn't say that period of time really drew me closer to Jesus, but it forced me to rely on him. And I was able to rely on him because of the period of time of my life that did draw me closer to Jesus.
You were able to build on that like foundation that you had and use it. Like, I mean, I think of like just so many situations where it's like everything is spiraling out of control and everyone's like, why isn't Mary Beth freaking out? And it's like, it's Jesus. Period. Like, it will always be Jesus. But because you know who he is, his sovereignty, his goodness, you're able to truly rest in that. I mean, I had so many examples, but that's huge. And I think more people as believers need to realize that like you can rest in that when things are spiraling out of control. It's like, take a deep breath. And it's like, because I've spent that quality, intimate time with him, I know who he is. Now I'm able to live this out. And people around me can be like, how? And it's like, Jesus. Period.
That's literally
with
it.
Tears like through your eyes. It's like, it's Jesus.
It's Jesus.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, we are...
I don't think Jeff's ever going to let us.
I know.
It's not
that bad. It's not.
It's not.
Well, a couple of things before we round it out. Just some upcoming things that you want to be aware of. We are continuing our Unplanned sermon series, I think, for 2 more weeks.
I think it's 2 more.
2 more
Don't
weeks.
Quote me on that.
It's been a good one, so I'm hoping for 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
And then coming up, we have Harvest Celebration in November, as well as Impact Sunday. Be on the lookout for info from your location for Impact Sunday and what your location is taking part in. Be sure you sign up to help with that. You do not want to miss it. It is such a great Sunday to get out and be the hands and feet of Jesus. Also, coming soon for those of you with student-aged kids, so middle school and high school, as well as elementary age kids, 2nd through 6th grade. We have registrations opening up very soon. Probably will be open by the time you hear this podcast.
Yes.
And you don't want to miss that either. Go ahead and secure your spot. They fill up quick, and we have a limited number of spots for each camp. Other than that, any final thoughts?
No.
All right.
Exciting stuff coming up.
Thanks, ladies. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk About That. We hope it encouraged and challenged you as we continue to grow on this journey of faith and embrace community together. If you have any questions, thoughts, or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us through our social media channels or visit our website to stay connected. Your support is what makes this podcast impactful. If you found today's discussion meaningful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, share the episode with a friend, and leave a review. Your engagement helps us spread the message and connect with others who can be encouraged through these conversations. Until next time, we hope this episode inspired you to live out your faith this week. Keep the conversations alive and remember we're all on this journey together.